Representative Jamal Bowman is not happy with Senator Joe Manchin, and he had some harsh words for him. Take a look.
Joe Manchin has become the new Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, during Obama's presidency, said he would do everything in his power to stop Obama. He's also repeated that now during the Biden presidency by saying he would do everything in his power to stop President Biden. And now Joe Manchin is doing everything in his power to stop democracy and to stop our work for the people, the work that the people sent us here to do. H.R. 1 not only is a huge bill when it comes to voting rights, it's a huge bill in terms of getting big money out of politics, protecting our elections against fraud, and ending gerrymandering. I mean, big money in politics is what's destroying our democracy, and the Republican Party is aiding and abetting that, and Donald Trump is obviously doing that as well. So Manchin is not pushing us closer to bipartisanship. He is doing the work of the Republican Party by being an obstructionist, just like they've been since the beginning of Biden's presidency.
So, look, I think it's a fair comparison. Let's be honest. Because, again, it's not necessarily in the goals of Mitch McConnell, which is to advance, of course, the Republican agenda, which is to basically get money for his donors. Actually, you know what? That is kind of the same thing that Manchin is doing. Because he tends to benefit as well when Republicans are in power because the donors benefit. I think we'll look into that a little bit further down the line here. But again, by refusing, and this is where Bowman is absolutely right, by effectively refusing to kill the filibuster, yes, he is allowing Republicans to do obstruction. 100%. He is helping Republicans. I think Joe Manchin knows that right now Republicans are not interested in doing anything during the Biden agenda, during the Biden years. They're not interested in passing voting rights. They're not interested in putting a stop to money in politics. Why is that? Well, for one, if they expand voting rights and they make it so that more people vote, there's a good possibility that in the next coming elections, Democrats could win some seats, and then Joe Manchin loses his ability to be basically a kingmaker. He loses his clout. Okay. For example, and this is what a lot of the blue checks, the Twitter liberals are talking about. Oh, we'll expand the majority in the next election. Now, therefore, we can make Joe Manchin moot. No doubt, he has thought about that, and so while it does kind of solve that problem a little bit, you also have to remember there are places where progressives can win. There are places where Democrats and progressives can't win or have much more difficulty winning it. And so that's something, of course, you have to get around. And so, but as things stay the same, okay, effectively 50-50, everyone has to kiss Joe Manchin's ass. Joe Manchin loves that. The Republicans will lobby him to not pass things. Democrats will lobby him to try to pass things or to criticize him. So he's essentially, again, in a very powerful position, and he loves it. The other thing, of course, reason that Joe Manchin right now loves obstruction is because of money. It's the money in politics. H.R. 1 does some things to limit the role of money in politics. So now it doesn't go as far as I would love. It doesn't go far, in a lot of ways. But it's got a lot of good stuff in it. And it would absolutely help quite a bit in expanding voting rights. All right. And of course, trying to limit at least a little bit the role of money in politics. So now Joe Manchin gets a lot of money, as a lot of these Congress people do. Look, on the Republican side, there's a lot of big donors that give to the Republican Party, obviously, but on the Democratic side as well. And yet that hasn't stopped just about every Democrat except for Joe Manchin to support H.R. 1, which, one again, shows that it doesn't quite go far enough, but it does have some token reforms that could run on, because money in politics is deeply unpopular with the American people. But again, going back to Joe Manchin, guess where he gets his money? Well, big corporations, obviously. His top donors are both in fossil fuels, and his second highest donor, Mineland Incorporated. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because that's the same company that jacked up the price of EpiPens, and the same company where his daughter worked, and actually recently retired with somewhere around a $30 million package. Mylan hiked the price of EpiPens over $300 a dose, despite it costing about less than $1 to produce. So, yeah, of course he doesn't want to do anything to impact money in politics, and so, of course, he wants to continue to get lots and lots of money without having to disclose his donors. He also knows that no Republican is going to vote for this, at least as it is, unless, of course, they strip out vast portions of the bill. If they decide to do this bipartisan, what's going to go first? The money in politics provisions. And, of course, anything that helps black voters be able to vote, have an easier time of voting, which kind of defeats the whole point of the bill at all. So now some members of the establishment press, unfortunately, are starting to circle the wagons around Joe Manchin now that progressives have to be calling him out. In fact, you have CNN reporter Manu Raju tweeting this, saying, quote, "Without Manchin, Mitch McConnell would be majority leader. With Manchin, Dems got a nearly $2 trillion COVID relief law that McConnell tried to derail." So, if we didn't have Joe Manchin, if we instead let a Republican win in West Virginia, because only somebody like Joe Manchin, an avowed centrist, could win in West Virginia. Therefore, Joe Manchin good, we must protect Joe Manchin. And how dare you criticize him at all? What he's doing is fantastic. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. And here's the thing about the $2 trillion package. It's the least that you could do. It's the least that you could do. And honestly, I would love to have seen McConnell derail it. Not because, obviously, the American people needed help, and they needed help incredibly badly. But Republicans would have paid a deep, deep political price for that. Every Democrat, I would hope at least every Democrat, would be on cable news screaming about how Mitch McConnell stood in between you and COVID relief. It's a political no-brainer. But here's the thing. That is different than the situation that we have here. Because, again, if Mitch McConnell had been majority leader, we wouldn't have gotten that, anything done. But you could blame it on Republicans. But now you have a Democrat that's blocking anything from getting done. And so what you have is, and again, two incredibly popular bills. You have a Democrat here making sure that nothing gets done. And so when that gets out into the news cycle, well, what are the voters going to think? Well, Democrats can't do anything. They can't get the stuff done that is popular that we want. And so what's the point of voting for Democrats? Did we not give you a majority to do something? I mean, Americans, when it comes down to it, they don't really care about bipartisanship. It is only establishment media. It is only people like, Manu Raju, the CNNs, the MSNBCs of the world that are like, oh, bipartisanship. Oh, we love bipartisanship. We worship at the altar of bipartisanship. But most Americans, again, they're like, yeah, we should try to reach out. But if they're not interested and it's something that most of us want, then hell yeah, we should go without Republicans. Hell yeah, we should do it. If it does something to make my life for the better, then of course we should go without them. If they're going to be obstructionist, we should leave them behind. But unfortunately, that's not happening. Because of people like Joe Manchin. DNC needs to pull Manchin's financial support. That's what I've been saying for a while. Defund Joe Manchin. Again, the DNC could pull all, threaten. At least they could do is threaten. Like, hey, we're not going to support your reelection if you continue to block our agenda. Now, there's a couple of reasons they're not going to do that. One, they overestimate the importance of Joe Manchin, which at this point, it seems comical to me because there seems to be no strategic advantage to keeping Joe Manchin when he's going to basically block your agenda and ensure that we end up having a Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell after 2024. Again, so it seems like to me, I'm not a highly paid political operative or strategist, so maybe I'm not seeing something, maybe I've got something wrong, but they could at least go and threaten that and say, play ball, or we're going to remove your financial support. That might be enough pressure to get them to do that. But again, there could be a reason the DNC is not doing that, and it could be the fact that they don't actually want to get things done. I don't know for sure, but I mean, it seems possible. Either way, not good. He is standing in the way of progress, and Jamal Bowman and other Democrats are absolutely right to call him out for it. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.